Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Star Watch, which is a weekly astrological transit report for the week starting Wednesday, July 20th. If you're new to my channel, my name is Jane. Just wanted to quickly introduce myself. I'm super happy to have you joining us. And if you're returning, welcome back. Also super happy to have you here. So this is a big week because the sun moves into rulership. This is the one time per year the sun comes into rulership. Does really well in Aries season and it's exaltation as well, but this really is the time when it's the sun's time, and we're joined with Mercury as well. Here we have the sun and Mercury. Now the sun and Mercury both are coming off of this opposition with Pluto, which I think, with getting a little bit of feedback via Instagram, I feel like some people were really feeling that opposition. Some people just felt really tired, while other people felt this like insane determination to make changes, but yet still feeling really stuck in a lot of areas. But that desire for full transformation became really, really apparent, the past few days. And now that sun is coming into Leo, this is absolutely a time to approach things with conviction, this is a place to back yourself up with everything that you hold true to your heart and everything that you value and everything that you genuinely believe, and to really move forward as unapologetically and as authentically as you possibly can. Because right now, there's really no point in standing still. Remember, last week when I talked about that full moon in Capricorn, it was conjunct Pluto, right? It was at the 21st degree, I think it was. And it was conjunct Pluto. And I told you, this is kind of a point of no return for us. It's like we're looking at these roads in front of us and we're looking at the road behind us. And there is just no possible way that we could bring ourselves to even remotely begin thinking about going backwards, right? That's how detached and disconnected from our past we may really feel, and yet still not truly or fully embraced who we are becoming. And yet we still know that there is this vision, and I think it is the vision that is keeping us firm, that is keeping us strong, that is keeping us moving forward in the day-to-day, meaning one small task a day, 2, 3, 4 small tasks a day toward this vision and toward this mission. I don't know that we are necessarily governed by timing right now. We're not necessarily saying, okay, well, by the end of August, we have to be here, and if not, then I'm going to quit. We're not doing these kinds of ultimatums with ourselves. We are allowing ourselves a lot more grace. We're allowing ourselves to go through the process. We're allowing ourselves to put one step in front of the other, but there's still a force behind us. It's just there's this unstoppability. We may be going slower, or we may be, taking our time or being smart and therefore perhaps a little cautious with things. But just because we're being smart or cautious and moving slowly does not mean we are not moving, right? And this is the time of Leo season where our desire to be seen, our desire to fully self-express, and our desire to just be us without the judgment is really, really coming out full force. Now, this is the first time that we've had any Leo activity at all, with the exception of the moon traversing through Leo. But other than that, this is the first time planets have entered into Leo since the nodes transitioned into Scorpio and Taurus. So this is significant because Leo has kind of just been this empty house. And with the nodes here, we've had this, pulling in terms of wanting this sort of material reward and the material success, and wanting the stability, and wanting to feel that sense of self-worth and that self-respect, and really wanting to offer something of value into the world. But South Node in Scorpio also being sort of bogged down by certain fears and, our subconscious, deep psychological workings that sometimes kind of work against us, and our reliance a little bit too much on others, in contrast with our own desire to be self-reliant. So there's, of course, with anywhere the nodes are, there's always that oppositional contrast, right? But now here comes the sun through Leo in rulership. Now, obviously, in February and late January and February, we had the sun coming through Aquarius, which also squared the nodes, but the sun was in detriment. So it's a totally different story. So when the sun comes through Leo in rulership and squares the nodes, there's going to be an opportunity for us to really just fully embrace these new ventures and these new journeys and these new paths that, you know, we've maybe had like kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or it's just been in idea form, or we haven't really executed on stuff. You know, one of the analogies that I really like to use with Leo, now I'm actually stealing this. I can't really take credit for this analogy. This is from the Leo King. I remember him talking about this one day and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I love that analogy so much. And it was like a king, right, waking up one day and walking out to the balcony and just kind of, you know, scratching himself and being like, all right, well, today I'm going to raise my taxes. I need some more money. I'm going to raise my taxes. And, you know, no matter what anyone else says, if the king wants higher taxes, then everyone's, you know, that's just what it's going to be, you know. It's just like take it or leave it, deal with it or not. And, you know, I think that's kind of an interesting approach of, you know, regardless of how unpopular a decision we want to make may be, if it is in our own best interest, if it is something that we hold dear to our hearts, then we got to do it. Like, we got to do what we got to do, and who cares what anyone else thinks? And the world will adjust around it, right? That's the thing about the sun being at the very center of the solar system, right? I mean, like everything works around it. Now, I know a lot of flat earthers are going to have a problem with that. Okay, fine, whatever. But you guys get the general concept, right? But, you know, everything revolves around the sun. And it's time. It's time for us to kind of take that throne a little bit. Now, at the same time, Mars is coming into a conjunction. Now, this conjunction is officially happening at the 18th degree of Taurus on August 1st. So we are still like, you know, a couple weeks or a week and a half out, but still, actually, what day is it? The 20th? Yeah, not quite 2 weeks. Sorry. I was like, the math was not computing in my head. But so we're still like a little over a week out, and Mars is going to be creeping closer and closer and closer to Uranus this week. Now the moon for the next couple of days is going to be activating this as well. The moon coming in contact with Mars. Now remember, the moon is in exaltation. Okay, so the moon is really strong here as well. So we have we're going to be having a strong sun as the sun comes in. Right now, for the next couple of days, we have a strong moon. Now, we still have Venus over here in Cancer as well. Next couple of days, the sun will stay in Cancer. But, you know, there's still like that emotional component and that desire for emotional security or emotional stability. Might not necessarily go hand in hand, but emotional stability is especially relevant and important. And I think that has to be found within yourself. Now, if you're married, of course, Venus coming in through Cancer, of course, you know, if you're married or in a significant partnership, obviously your partner can help provide that emotional stability as well. But many of you have to find that within yourself. You have to be okay with other people disagreeing with you, or you have to be okay with people judging you, or with people not being on board or whatever. And you have to say, you know what, that's okay. I'm going to do it anyway. Now, we know that Cancer is a cardinal sign. And so when Venus, which represents a lot of the things that we value and that we hold very dear to our hearts, you know, she's going to be coming into even a sextile with Mars here over the next few days. And that too, okay, that transit too is going to be all about initiating things. You're going to initiate, you're going to begin, you're going to, you know, have a conversation perhaps. You're going to begin the project. You're going to take the first steps. You're going to accept the money for the thing or give someone else the money for the thing. You know, like this is a time to really get it started. Now, we had a lot of get start energy when Mars was over here in Aries. And that was great because I think it really was like the precursor to this Mars coming conjunct Uranus in North Node. Now, this is going to be kind of I'm still like projecting some world events. Actually, like the market's been doing okay, specifically the crypto markets has been doing okay. I was really predicting like a lot of volatility, just really haven't seen that so far. Obviously, with the moon coming through in her strength, I mean, she's really the strongest, one of the strongest planets, she and Venus both. So we're in this really feminine place right now, which is deeply surrendered and deeply relaxed in a lot of ways. Just like relax and go with the process. You can still initiate and begin things, but from a more surrendered place. And I think that over the next couple of days, that's really where we're at. Now, as we progress forward, we can see Mars just down here at the very bottom of the list, just staying at this -10 all week. And as it builds up to that Uranus, okay, this is July 26th, which is next Tuesday. This is when that conjunction gets real. The moon then will be in her power as well. She'll be sitting at a +5. Obviously, the sun very strong at a +8, here in Leo in rulership, coming into a trine with Jupiter as well during that time. And so this is going to be, pretty interesting to see what happens in a kind of a global context. But for us personally, in terms of our own endeavors, I think this is a really great time to just kind of throw the cards up in the air and say, screw it. Like, let's just try it. Like, what have we got to lose? And really, I don't know that you really have a lot to lose. Like there's really nothing on the line here. Now, some of you may have some financial investment into it, a time investment or an energy investment or, an emotional investment with things. But when you look at like the reality, right, Taurus, the realness or the earthiness of it in kind of a realistic way, it just kind of is what it is. And there just really may not be that much of a risk because the biggest risk was more like not doing it, And Venus coming into this sextile with Mars, she's really saying like, it's time, it's time to have faith in yourself. It's time to believe. It's time to go deep and to heal those ancestral wounds and to heal that ancestral karma. It's time to overcome the things that, your mother or your father specifically taught you. It's time to overcome the burden of your trauma. And I talked a lot about how this Chiron retrograde kind of coming over that 15th degree, the 15th degree kind of being like a gateway. It's kind of like that time when a lot of people who have been healing for many years kind of leaving that healing phase in the rear view window. And not that that healing will ever fully be done. It's not to say stuff still won't surface, because it definitely will. But it's like we're not making daily decisions based on like our pain and our traumas, like we're now in a position where we can be more optimistic and more open. Now remember, Jupiter is also slowing way down as he makes his way into a retrograde on the 28th, which just so happens to be exactly the same day as this new moon in Leo. Now we'll talk more about that next week, so I don't want to get too, I know I always talk like really far ahead, but this week, let's not go too far ahead. We are going to be having, a waning moon all week, and we're going to be making our way into that dark moon phase before we hit the new moon on the 28th. And, this really is a time to just kind of close out the thing that you've been really wanting to close out for a really long time. And I know you've been wanting to close it out because, like I say, last week with the full moon in Capricorn, it was all about literally leaving it behind and closing that chapter, point of no return. And this full moon, the new moon in Leo saying, great, you've left it behind. And now you get to kind of choose and mold a life that is more cohesive to what you truly believe and what you truly love and what you truly value, and that which will give you this stability, specifically the emotional stability that you do need and you do require. I do think safety is an important thing for us, to feel safe. It's like interesting to like take a big risk, but also be safe doing that. And I think, as I'm actually preparing the August tarot readings, that's kind of a big theme. It's like, yeah, you are taking a big risk, but you're more safe with taking the risk than you are letting the opportunity pass you by. Okay. Now, as the sun, not only is this coming into a sextile here, but the sun is going to start. Now, again, I'll talk more about this next week. The sun is going to be coming into a square with Mars, Uranus, and the North Node as well. Okay, so the sun being activated, heavily activated by these kind of, I guess we could call them, for lack of a better phrase right now, our destiny points, although I don't necessarily always see them as such, but they are amplified points. And this amplification with a super strong sun, it's kind of like our sense of self, our spirit, our soul, and our own soul's ambitions are going to kind of take precedence. I mean, you guys know the story of Rahu and Ketu, right? It's kind of like a demon, right? The dragon, he got split in half. The dragon's head is the North Node, the dragon tail, doomed forever because he partook of the elixir of eternal life, doomed forever to be split in half. And, these are kind of like unruly, unpredictable demon points in our charts. And the sun is kind of this dignified, royal, godly planet. And he's kind of saying, hush, stop tearing me in half. Stop pulling me apart. We have to unify. We have to bring these parts of ourselves together. We have to find the balance between these nodes. And we have to do it with dignity and with honor and without sacrificing the things that we hold to be true and that we hold in high regard in this lifetime. We're not going to sacrifice our values. We're not going to sacrifice the standards that we've developed, right? Because we've been through all the ish, right? We've been through all of it. And we're not going to allow that to be all for nothing. Right? We're not going to allow that. So we are in this moment where we get to accept, right? Specifically as the sun comes into this beautiful trine with Jupiter over here, and we get to say, we are who we are. We make no apologies for this. We are reinventing ourselves, and that is okay. We are rebranding, rebuilding, redeveloping. We are, changing our minds, changing our hearts, changing our soul's direction. And that's just what it's going to be. That's just what it's going to be. Okay, and let's see what else we've got going on here. Let's go back. Because really this Mars, Uranus, North Node conjunction, I think a lot of us, to a degree, have been really questioning our own value. And when I say questioning, it doesn't mean that you think you don't have value. It's just that will other people see that value? Because in relation to the sunrise, now remember the way I structure this chart is I always put the sun on the ascendant. It's the sunrise chart. So we're in Leo season, which means that at the point of sunrise, we've got Taurus at the midheaven. So a lot of us are really thinking about not only our direction in life and what we're contributing, but we're also like, well, how do other people see us? There is a caring to a degree. As much as I would love to say, Sun in Leo, I don't care, I don't think that's also realistic. I think we do care. Mars in Taurus, and I think I'm contradicting myself a little bit. Sorry about that. Now that I'm realizing, I'm like, we do care. It doesn't matter what people think. We may not necessarily want to, and we're going to do it anyway, but there is that hope in our hearts that like people will support and people will love and people will open their hearts and people will, understand what we're trying to do and they will, really give us that leg up emotionally and spiritually to really help us climb how far we wish to go. Now, the thing that's interesting about this energy too is I don't think that any of this is coming from a place of dissatisfaction. This isn't coming from a place of dissatisfaction. This is coming from a place of expansion of self, as Jupiter is in Aries. See, Jupiter in Aries, like, this is not because you hate your life. Blech. It's not because you're so discontent and everything is boring and everything is bad. No, this is because you are so content and so appreciative and so gracious, feeling so much gratitude that you're like, I'm ready for more. Like, that's why we're here. Like, when you really think about, the traditional theories of the universe, well, I say traditional, but like maybe, I don't know, more modern, I don't know. I know that the theories of what the universe is and what's going on is changing all the time. But, like when I was growing up, they would teach you, okay, like if you like stuck a bunch of pennies on a balloon and you blew up the balloon, those pennies, as the balloon got bigger, those pennies would like separate from each other, and those pennies were to represent like galaxies or whatever. So there's like this expansion going on. And if that is the case, then expansion is just what the universe, that's all it is. That's all. That's what every entity and every conscious being can expect from themselves, is a desire for expansion. And because Aries is the very first sign of the zodiac, we're really tapping into that. And because Jupiter is going retrograde for the first time, well, I mean, it will only do one retrograde in Aries. It will dip back into Pisces, that very last degree of really kind of final nail in the coffin here, saying, you're, like the end is really the end, and this new you, it's real. Like, get on board with this new you. Get on board with this new venture. Get on board with this new investment, this new path, this new whatever. Get on board with it, because this is going to amplify the very, very end degrees of Pisces, which is the very, very end of the zodiac, which is the very, very end of a massive cycle. Okay? So next year, 2023, Jupiter is going to be moving very quickly through Aries. Yes, it will come into a conjunction with Chiron next year, which we're definitely going to feel that probably as like the last big hump in our healing, right? And then Jupiter will move on through Taurus and really amplify our kind of more material world, which can be really beneficial for a lot of people when that happens. But this is why we're feeling that urge right now, and because Neptune and Saturn and Pluto, again, I say it every week, they're at the very last degrees of the very last three zodiac signs. And when Saturn comes through Pisces through 2023 and 24, it'll dip in 25 into Aries and then come back and then go back through 2026 through Aries. When that kind of stuff happens and Pluto moves into Aquarius, like, the world is going to be a very different place in like the next 4 years. And so right now, Spirit is kind of guiding us and nudging us and corralling us into these tunnels, into these funnels, into these canals, whatever you want to call it, for us to kind of prepare for how the world is going to be changing. All right, so this is good. Even though we can't really understand why, I know that we're going to be able to look back on this in the next 5 years and say like, oh my gosh, thank goodness I made that change. Thank goodness I took that new job. Thank goodness I moved to that new city. Thank goodness I fell in love with this person, thank goodness. And you're really going to feel that sooner probably rather than later. And this is kind of that month of, okay, let's really go, or the week rather. This is kind of a week, next couple of weeks where we really feel that Uranian personalized, Mars is a very personal planet, very personal revolution here, and getting pretty aggressive with it to a degree, right? Getting aggressive with it because we know that we just can't not do it. Okay? I think it's going to be a good week. in general for us individuals, although there could be some global stuff, but generally speaking for us individuals, I think it should be good. Okay? All right, so we are going to cut off there. Thank you guys so much. You guys know how much I love and appreciate you. Have an amazing week. Talk to you soon.